Shall I
All
start?
right.
Okay, great. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the second episode for the year of Applied HE's Fireside Chat. My name is Mandy Mock. I'm the founder and CEO of Applied HE, a Singapore-based but globally oriented higher education, evaluation, and branding agency. The topic for this evening's discussion is about alumni relations beyond the obvious. So our panel of speakers will dive into the dynamic world of alumni engagement, exploring how we can transcend conventional approaches and uncover new dimensions of connection and collaboration. Alumni are more than just former students. They are a vital thread woven into the fabric of our institution's success. So please join us as we navigate the uncharted territories of alumni relations, discovering innovative strategies to foster lifelong relationships and reimagining the possibilities that lie ahead in alumni engagement and management. We're very grateful to our partner, Education Insight, and our sponsor, Universitas Hasanuddin, for their support in making this webinar a reality. Leading this evening's discussion is Ms. Ziba Salman. She's the Director of Alumni Relations from ANU, Australian National University. So therefore, she is the best person for this topic, as she is responsible for ANU's global network of 133,000 alumni. She's joined by an exceptionally strong panel of speakers from Pakistan, the UK, Australia, and Malaysia, whom she will introduce them to you shortly. Ziba, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mandy, and thank you for inviting us for today's discussion on the world of alumni relations. I've had extensive experience, but actually I've got a panel here of experts and more experience than me, and combined, I think we're going to have a really fantastic conversation. So hello to everyone. Great to see people logged on. Looking forward to an interactive discussion tonight with our expert panel, and encourage you to think of questions as we go through this next hour, and there will be some time for Q&A at the end. So we're here tonight to talk about the importance of alumni relations and how, as Mandy suggested, the wider ranging impacts might not always be so obvious. Before we go into that, I'm pleased to be joined today by colleagues and friends I have made during my own career journey in the sector. And like I mentioned, Mandy said, it's truly an international panel today. So let me first introduce our panel speakers tonight. I'm absolutely delighted to introduce Christine Fairchild, Director of Alumni Relations at Oxford University. And this is a final week at Oxford after an amazing 13 years of developing the alumni program at Oxford. The university has 350,000 known alumni in 188 countries. And with Christine's leadership, the Oxford Alumni Network is made up of a staggering 180 active branches and shared interest groups. That's fantastic for me to hear. We're still on the journey there, Christine, at ANU, so it's great to see the work you've done at Oxford. Prior to Oxford, Christine had 20 years of experience in alumni relations at the Harvard Business School and a further 10 years at the Harvard Art Museum, looking after membership, development, special events, and public education activities. Christine is a well-known champion and advocate of professionalizing alumni relations in the sector. Christine, really good to see you, and thank you so much for zooming in from Oxford today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. My next guest or next introduction is a very special and warm welcome to Dari Milani, Pro Vice Chancellor at La Trobe University in Melbourne, Australia. I say special as Dari has played such a key role in my own move to Australia from the UK some 5 years ago, and helped me not just in the workplace, but also in settling into the Australian lifestyle, which I'm forever grateful for. Dari joins us from an international education and student recruitment perspective today. He is a senior leader within the sector with almost 20 years in international education, and brings a really strong track record in developing international strategy, building global partnerships, and implementing effective student recruitment strategies across international and domestic markets. Thank you so much, Dari, and I believe you're joining us from Newcastle on the East Coast today.
That's right, Ziba. Thank you so much for inviting me along. I'm really looking forward to a fantastic discussion this evening.
Thanks, Dari. Next, I'm delighted to welcome Jenny Wong. Jenny is Dean of the Faculty of Business at Seto University College in Malaysia. Jenny is passionate about educating young minds and to drive changes to the education ecosystem. With more than 20 years of experience in the higher education industry, her roles have included creating multidisciplinary curriculum, building international partnerships, and strategic leadership. Jenny is prominent as a conference speaker and has shared thoughts on trending topics such as the joy in learning, emotional intelligence, EQ, and students' well-being. Jenny, we're really happy to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us from Malaysia.
I should say this in the national language of Malaysia. Terima kasih dan apa khabar semua. Thanks.
Fantastic. And welcome to Sheikh Hamad Amjad, who I've known for over 15 years now, through our work together when I was in London and Hamad's work from the British Council in Pakistan. Hamad is based in Karachi, Pakistan, and is deputy country head for the Japanese firm Nippon Express Group. Hamad has worked extensively in Pakistan to build trade and commerce solutions, and somewhat uniquely, his work has leveraged the value of alumni networks. So looking forward to hearing more on that. Hamad is a former CEO for Pakistan's International Business Council and has also served as CEO of the British Business Centre Pakistan, a company formed by the British government to facilitate British SMEs in the country. He has previously worked with the British Council and Ministry of Information and Tech in Pakistan. Hamad, so glad to have you with us, and thanks for zooming in from Karachi.
Oh, thank you, Zeba. I think thanks to you all for inviting me for this, on this platform. I think alumni relations is a topic that's really close to my heart. So really looking forward to, have a good discussion with everybody and listen to the questions from all around the world.
Awesome. Thank you, Hamad. So thank you all so much. And between all of your fantastic experiences, there is so much to cover. So I'm going to suggest we move directly into the conversation. And everyone here brings such a different, unique experience in the world of alumni relations. So my first question is, perhaps let's just start at the beginning. What is alumni relations and why does it even matter? And Christine, I think you're the best person to really jump into that for us, please.
Well, thank you, Zeba. I'm not sure if I'm the best person, but I certainly am passionate about it. And what's interesting is the title of this fireside chat is Beyond the Obvious. And one of the things that is interesting, I think, is that alumni relations and alumni themselves can often not be obvious to the leaders of the institution, who will be focused so much on the educational experience for the students that they forget the fact that they are producing this extraordinary community of people that will go on to be the only consistent community that they have. If you think about it, alumni don't go anywhere. The faculty come and go, the staff come and go, but your students who then become alumni are yours forever as part of the institution. And I had a wonderful dean at the Harvard Business School who would say that alumni are often the only book people read about your institution. You alumni represent that institution's brand, its relevance, its position in the world, its potential. And one of the things that's so important about alumni relations is what that does is to really burnish that image and that affiliation with the institution. It really does all of that heavy lifting around ensuring that people stay engaged with the institution throughout their lives, no matter where they are, no matter what they're doing, but they stay involved. The institution remains relevant to them, and they are supremely relevant to that institution. They are indeed carrying the brand for us as we go out into the world. And that said, that may, sort of feels sort of silly to be admitting that some institutions don't take their university alumni for that they take them for granted, but I think it is part of our challenge as alumni relations professionals to be sure that we are reminding them regularly about the potential that these people have to continue to give and to make a difference. And we also owe it to the alumni themselves to say, this is an opportunity for you. This is a chance for you to engage in a way that perhaps you hadn't thought about engaging before. And it can be very powerful and a remarkable opportunity for people to feel their value over and over and over again. So
thank you. Yeah, no, thank you, Christine. I mean, I agree 100%. My question coming out of that, and something like you said, for us who work in the sector, and we have that alumni relations hat on. How do we stay relevant? how do we make ourselves relevant to, an evolving alumni community, the dynamics within that? You have 350,000 alumni, everyone's unique within that. How do you cater to such a huge audience?
Well, it's very difficult. And I think one of the things that technology does allow us to do, and I know we'll come back to technology in a bit, is to be better stewards of the data that we hold for people so that we actually know them better. And we use that knowledge, that data, to drive a program that is relevant and specific to that particular time in their life or the location where they are. So a lot of it has to do with being really systematic and mindful about the way in which we set up our alumni programs. It's all about being sure that the program that we've developed meets the needs and fits the purpose of an ever-changing audience of people. And back in the day, it was a one-shot deal. It was just one way that you engaged, and that was it. And if we got you, we got you. But this is much more. There's much more expected of institutions today. And I think also institutions can provide more service than ever before, whether it comes to, career support, job postings, whether it's networking, whether it's lifelong learning, continuous education, any number of ways in which alumni can be involved. And it's just being sure that you understand the nuances of what your alumni are doing or where they are in their own particular headspace. There's been a lot of work done recently at looking at Generation Z, for instance, and what the motivations are for them. They're going to be very different than what the motivations were for the baby boomer generation. And certainly the students that are coming out of a COVID experience at the university are going to be a bit cynical, probably, and a bit more sort of, prove to me, why should I trust you, or why should I stay engaged? So we have a lot of work to do. It's not we can't expect it to happen naturally. We have to work at it.
And it's constantly evolving, right? So what you've discussed is
always
constant. The dynamics are changing, the audience, the market is changing, the relevance.
Absolutely. And think about the competitors too. Think about what we're competing against. We're competing against all these other thought leaders or all these other engagement opportunities out there in the world. We have to prove that we have something special and unique to give our alumni.
And I'm just thinking at the title of this session, maybe that is going beyond the obvious to find those unique, those nuanced approaches as well. We're having to be, creativity is key to the work we do.
Absolutely.
No, thank you, Christine. The other thought I had on that is, it's also, you've got the audience, the alumni audience, but also in between us all on this call, our institutions are at different levels of the alumni journey and understanding of what that means and how that adds value to institutions.
That's so true. And I think one of the things that we can do as the alumni professionals in our institutions is to be perceived as partners, because we are facilitators. We are aggregators and facilitators. We can help our career services folk get more jobs for students. We can help them get mentors for the students. We can help our admissions team use alumni as representatives of the institution to attract people from different backgrounds, perhaps, or people who wouldn't have thought of applying. So we are uniquely positioned to be really right at the vortex of all of this work, and can really leverage that wider, bigger alumni community in all of its wealth and resources, but also in its very unique and very targeted value that they provide.
Thank you, Christine. Just to the panel, if anyone wants to jump in, please just raise your hand as well at any point. That thinking about the dynamics of alumni relations, how the alumni connect with institutions. Another key one is how alumni matter to current students as well, and how that relationship plays a part. Jenny, did you have thoughts of that coming from your own background as dean or faculty?
Yes, I do. So in fact, perhaps I can share a bit from the Malaysian side of the stories. So back in Malaysia, we often have this issue whereby there is a gap between the employer's expectation versus the graduate's capability. And I believe that the alumni has the capability or have the power to actually bridge this gap. in terms of sharings of their experiences to our existing students. And apart from that, in terms of learning something new skills, personal development skills, because more often than not, currently in Malaysia, we have the gap between the graduates and the employers. So the employers are actually expecting certain skills from the graduates, and apparently the graduates are not having this. So what the alumni can actually do in terms of the workshops or even panel discussions, or coming back to the universities and have sharing sessions and give these graduates the kind of skills, the kind of the needed skills in order to bridge that gap. And I believe if, let's say, all the alumni are doing this in the universities itself, this may be an added value to the students and for the university. And I also agree with what Christine mentioned. Alumni is also a very tool to increase the reputation and the image of the university. At the end of the day, everyone leaves, but the alumni will still be with the university.
Definitely. And I just want to put attention. There's a question from Kinney. Thank you, Kinney, for your question, which relates to this question, what we're just discussing here. How can the alumni be active at your institution when 1 out of 30 students aren't proud to graduate at your institution? Good question, Kinney. Does anyone have any thoughts on that from the panel?
I've just popped a little response in
okay.
there, because it's such a great question. My goodness me, it really is such a great question. We're never going to be able to graduate zealots where everybody feels that they are just absolutely committed. But it would be really interesting to understand those who aren't. What are the barriers? What are the things that have led them to that sense of disaffection? Have they been treated badly? Did they feel that it was the wrong institution for them? Are they unhappy with the way the institution itself is positioned? Do they not believe in what it stands for? I just think unpicking some of that would be fascinating.
I would like to add something on that as well, right? Because yes, from the university branding or admission perspective, there might be some challenges, where the students are not proud of that university. But I think alumni relations is something that takes time to build on, right? Because Christine also mentioned that, the gap between the baby boomers and the Gen Z, right? So basically, it's all about the network that you are actually developing. So I think in that age, when you are graduating, you don't realize the importance of the alumni relation. You realize it over a period of time, like after 5 years or 6 years, 7 years down the lane, when you actually need access to that network. So I think even if 1 out of 30 students is still proud to be part of that institution, you will take some time, you will develop that network. Either it's a small group of network, because, I'm sure because you organize a lot of alumni events, every time you see new faces, you meet new people, but there will be only few people you will be meeting again and again, because they realize the importance of that particular network, and that is your win, right? So I think you slowly and gradually can develop that network over the period of time. Just be a little patient, and then I think very rightly you also mentioned about how to stay relevant. I think this is very important in current context, because at this point in time, everybody is looking for more opportunities. So if you are able to develop that, I think this one can be converted into 30 and 60 and 90 and then go on. So I think this is something I feel not everybody understand how to develop actually that network over the period of time. But once you actually get a hang of it, then you can actually realize the importance of that particular network and the opportunities that actually it can bring.
Definitely. Dari, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, it's really fascinating to hear the comments and thoughts of my fellow panelists. And just going to that question, I think, another really important piece to remember is every institution is at different stages of maturity in how they engage with their student body that makes their student body feel like part of a community. And often we look to North American institutions as the gold standard in how they do that, and they're really fantastic at making students feel part of something. And it's something that I think in Australia we're getting better at. but we're not there yet. But that's a really important part of how students will feel connected as an alumni, network, is what was their student experience like? Did they feel like they were part of a community? They really belonged to the institution. As Christine said, did their values align with the institution? And that requires work. That requires work from the institution. And I think it's all connected, and it all plays a role in how that alumni will feel, post-graduation.
That requires work, that requires time and commitment. And as Jenny was saying, that's a careers interface as well, building that into the student program. I know CUT Alumni Affairs, thank you for your question. And Christine, thanks for we all agree on that. Definitely, we need to play a role with the student body and be active at the student body. So it's very common, or in traditional alumni relations, you'll have an alumni relations team which sort of swoops in at the graduation stage, but actually we need to be there a lot earlier, and even obviously at the future student, that when students are actually applying to come to a university, at that stage you can be involved as well. So there are many opportunities with the current students, with future students as well, to be part of that student experience. Let me see another question. I think one really exciting part of our work, and all these networks that Hamada's talking about, the value of the networks, is that alumni bodies, the networks, they exist without borders. It's a global, my university is in Canberra, but my alumni are all over the world. And so, students are representing their alma mater in leadership roles all around the world, making change, societal change, impact, and play a real critical role in shaping the identity for that institution overseas. So I wanted to bring Dari in on this conversation in terms of, Dari, your expertise in international education. And Dari and I have actually previously worked together on really interesting strategies to bring together the student recruitment angle proactively with alumni relations. Dari, what's your take on global alumni?
Look, I think it's so powerful, Zeba. I think to understand why it's so powerful and what potential it has, that global network, I think we have to remember for a moment that journey that an international student goes on to choose your institution. It's not by accident. They filter through a lot of institutions before they make that choice. Then they pay a lot of money to study as an international student at any institution they study. So there's a deep, deep connection before they even step foot on your campus. And it's up to us then to really nurture that throughout the student experience, and then continue to engage with that global alumni network to see, because we know that they will want to stay connected to us, but the manner in which they connect with us it may be different. And I think, Christine, you may have said it earlier around the expectations that alumni have of their alma mater is really changing. They have a lot more expectations, and the type of engagement that we have with our alumni may not be fundraising. It may not be, philanthropy. It may be other things. And we've seen that's particularly true for international students who want to give back something to their alma mater, but it's not necessarily going to be the things that perhaps traditionally we've sought from our alumni network. And yeah, we've had some wonderful experiences, Zeba, building programs where actually our international alumni become advocates for the student experience at the institution. And there's no better advocate than someone, when we go around the world talking about our institution and why it's so wonderful to study there, it's much more powerful to have someone who's talking a lived experience. They have studied there. They have been an international student at that institution. It gives authenticity to that voice. It's far more powerful than having me talking about it, having never studied at that Australian institution myself. So I think that's something that we can really leverage a lot more, because international alumni in particular have already demonstrated their deep commitment to your institution by choosing your institution.
Completely. I couldn't agree more on that authentic voice, that testimonial, and sharing that prospective student, getting students in. But Dari, I also remember discussions about even once international students come onto campus, the support networks needed to support international students within, the overall cohort of domestic and international students, and the role that alumni could also play even at that level. So like you said, beyond just maybe the normal fundraising, but actually as volunteers, as mentors. So we've got the career space, but actually this student support space of mentoring as well.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
was deeply meaningful, wasn't it?
Completely. And, in terms of the learnings I've had throughout my career in terms of engaging in this space, it does need to be structured engagement. It can't be engagement that's a little bit ad hoc, or, we treat our alumni network as volunteer workforce. It really does need to be structured, professional, rewarding, not in monetary terms, but in, professional sense. It's got to feel like it's a worthwhile endeavor. And that requires the institutions to really ensure they build the structures to help that alumni network succeed in being advocates.
Completely, Dari. Thank you. Christine, you've got your hand up.
I was just going to say just really quickly. So I'm one of those international students, Dari, where I was an American studying at Connecticut College, and I went to the University of Durham for a year. And to this day, I actually give money to Durham as well as to money to my college back at home. I had such an amazing experience there, and I was just so impressed by the university itself. So it was they've both gotten me as a as a donor, but also as somebody who's a spokesperson, happy to talk to anybody about studying for a year at that university. But one of the things I was also going to say about international alumni that I think is something important, you're so right. They are the living, breathing proof of our having an international program. However, it becomes so hard, or it is increasingly hard for us as institutions to deliver an international program for alumni, because the formats and the foundations for those communication channels and the way people engage is so different culturally around the world, that how we think about staying sort of agile and responsive to those different expectations is hard. So my alumni in China have a very different set of expectations for engaging with this institution than my alumni in Peru. And what does that need to look like then to be truly an international alumni office? I'm not sure we are. I think we tend to think we are because we've got these alumni all over the world. But frankly, we do pretty well supporting our alumni in Europe and in North America, but we do a pretty bad job in doing it further afield. So I think it's just something to think about, how you shape a truly international program to support engagement going forward is another challenge for us. And I hope we'll come back to the question about alumni relations and fundraising, because I do think that's a really interesting one. I'm particularly interested in that sometime.
I completely agree on managing international networks. You can't just brush them, they can't just be covered in the same bucket either, as in domestic group and international groups. So, and even within the teams, staff need training, like the cultural understanding and training to understand different markets. So from Australia, when we work with our American alumni networks, everything needs to be instant, the information flow, the support that we give, it's all got to be really quick, and we've got to be ready to respond to that. But in other parts of the world, the slow pace, I've just returned from an alumni trip to Fiji, and it is very relaxed. It's very slow getting information. It's almost like a week apart to get things done. But having the experience of that and understanding that is really key, I think, even for staff working in alumni relations, to then know how to manage that with their alumni. Ahmad, you've got a lot of experience in this space with your connections or work experience between British Council, different international organizations in Pakistan, but working quite globally. You bring something really unique, I think, in terms of how you're a trade and commerce background. Why have alumni networks been important to you?
I think, Zeva, we also need to set a little bit context here, right? For the alumni relations, because I have managed the alumni relations from the British Council end, right? And, from a university perspective, it might be a little different, but in somehow, you use those connections, or, you would like to capitalize on those network, to secure more admissions for universities, build on, success stories, get the fundraising, everything. But I think the most important aspect is first you have to develop that network. That takes time, right? Because you also have limited resources, within your university or within your offices, you have limited budgets, so you need to first capitalize on that and build that network first. Once you have a level of network, then you can actually realize its potential that, this is the kind of impact it can actually create, not only for your organization but also in terms of trade and commerce. So, like, for example, you also work with a lot of people who have graduated from a certain university but now are well placed in different organizations, right? And I think those are the kind of the opportunities that at this point in time people are looking for, because it's not easy. I think one thing which we have learned after COVID, that the face-to-face interactions are important, so we do require that. In order to develop that network, go out, you need to reach out people. So I also now see a lot of interest from my even my fellows from my university, that oh, where is our alumni network, we need to get in, when is that event happening, because they know that everything is linked, the employability, the network, the skills, the trade and commerce. Because if I know somebody of my university, graduating from my university, sitting at the right place, and I am also well placed in some other organization, we can collaborate, so that sort of collaboration need to actually happen. And then those are the real success stories that everybody needs to market, that yes, the alumni network, that is your actually net worth, because that is where you can actually get a lot of benefits. So it's not only about the university for getting and securing the admissions or developing that success story, but also for that particular students. So another example, because in Pakistan, we now see, I think even around the world, a lot of focus is on entrepreneurship, right? So you see a lot of startups coming up. I regularly visit UK. Last time I went to SOAS on a fellowship, so I saw a couple of incubation spaces there also. So in those incubation centers, students, come up with their ideas. Universities help them to develop a business plan. Now, the role of a university is also limited. They have limited resources. They can help the student to shape up the plan. But when they actually go out in the market, they actually need that level of support and handholding, that kind of network, that somebody can help them and say, look, guys, the business plan on paper looks very nice, but in practical world, it doesn't work like this. So these are the steps you have to follow. Now, if there you have that, even a small connection, doesn't matter if you want to talk to a CEO of a big company, but you both graduated from a same university, and there you have that common background. So it's very easy for you to link with that particular person and develop that sort of network. And that is what I have actually seen in even a lot of events now. Even British Council also organize a lot of big networking events. People come in, and I see a lot of partnerships happening just because of those events. Two people met, and they were like-minded. They met again, maybe for a coffee. They developed some partnership. If I'm doing a startup, I needed some support, and oh, okay, I'm graduated from this university, these are the guys I can get support. So in terms of trade and commerce, I think is a very important role. You globally, you also see because these small businesses then contribute to the larger picture of that trade and commerce, right? You don't require to have a multi-billion-dollar deal just because you both studied in the same university. Those small partnerships, right? So that basically create a lot of opportunities, not only for yourself but among all the peers in your network and circle. So that is what I believe from the from my experience, that a commercial perspective should be there, right? Because yes, we are working to develop that alumni relation, but this is not charity. We're not talking about, yes, we are trying to build that, culture and ecosystem, but, every one of us, we work for some of organizations. So I believe that there should be some commercial perspective, and people should be thinking on that model, because we've been having discussions about, I've seen a lot of questions that, how we penetrate, how we develop the network. People will come to your event again if they see that value. If they see that, okay, Zeba, you organized that event, I met 10 other people, and after that I met another 2, and then, we had a good communication. I think in future I might be able to do something, with them.
Definitely.
That's it. I'll come again to another event. So I see that value, right? So I think that is my perspective and take, on your question. But again, I would like to emphasize that it takes time. It's not a one day or a overnight thing especially for the alumni relations. So you have to be consistent and persistent both. And then slowly over the period of time, you'll see those results, and you can create that network through different strategies.
That's great. Thank you, Hamad. That you've really helped to sort of bring out what networks are about and basic beyond the obvious, right? So we don't do events for just events' sake. We are looking for those value outcomes from that. Jenny, you've got your hand up. I think you shot your hand up when Hamad started talking about entrepreneurship. So I think you might have something to add there.
Yeah, I was just looking at the conversation that's going around in terms of what Hamad said about the entrepreneurship as well as networking. Then there's another point that we have to look at, which is the cultural differences. And a lot of universities from around the world, we are talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So in terms of the international alumni relations and in terms of the stakeholders from the universities as well as external, how my one is more like a question in a sense that how can we get this together into a whole ecosystem whereby, when we talk about just now international alumni, from different countries, different culture. Some countries, they are very pro diversity, equity, and inclusivity, but some countries, they're just baby step, they are learning. So how can we actually make this, if it's not equal, but is equity, that everybody will know about this concept, and how can we make it as an ecosystem? I think that will be an interesting things that we can see from here.
So let's put that on hold, that question that Jenny's raised for us, because Dari's also got his hand up. So Dari, are you adding to that?
Yeah, look, I just wanted to pick up on some of those comments. And I think really the value of an alumni network in the business world is huge. And, one of the reasons for that is business is facilitated, when you have trust with the person you're doing business with. And trust comes from having shared values. And that opportunity to identify those shared values with the place that you study, that institution, that is that whole circle of how it really has a positive impact on how you do business. But again, it requires institutions to be really clear about those values and how they really nurture students through that. But yeah, I think to Hamad's point, it is so important in business.
I think trust and how is one institution different to another institution? When we see like the values, maybe if we take the university context, the value and the mission of universities, there's a lot of conversation about how similar they all are and how is that nuanced to add value to its own audience. But Hamad, you've got your hand up again.
Yeah, I just wanted to have a small comment on the because Jenny spoke about the diversity that even if you develop the alumni networks, in some countries are big, there are a lot of graduates there, there are a lot of diverse interests between the groups and also within different organizations. I think one thing which have worked is basically to have those sector specific groups, right? Because if, for example, you think in your country, agriculture might be a good topic, or you can see in the next 5 or 10 years, and these are the one or two or three topics, for example, artificial intelligence, and people would like to know about it. I think, trust me, if you can develop that sort of a business interest, it's human psychology. People can keep their differences aside and come together and work together on something jointly. They would like to develop something. So in that, this is something which we have tried. We created sector specific approach. We have sector for different sectors. Anybody who's interested in, for example, working on an agriculture project as an alumni, they can come together, share their expertise, and then that really helps to break that ice and helps everybody, to work together. There has been an approach. So I just thought, would like to share.
Thank you, Ahmad. Just really good considerations and just good, fantastic conversation. This is really good. We've got a lot of Q&A coming up, so thanks to the audience for popping these in. We'll come back to that because I just wanted to talk through connecting all of this together. And Christine, you mentioned it early on. I just wanted to bring in specifically tech into the conversation in helping us to enable all of these ideas and these concepts and what we work on. You know, engaging a very broad alumni community, it is challenging. You know, how do we look at that diverse groups and networks or shared interests? But technology has helped us to obviously scale up and establish more of a stronger presence, especially in the sort of institutional space. Christine, or even Jenny, or Daria, Ahmad, any thoughts on that from your side, or any tools you think you've used that have made a real difference in your space?
I just really quickly on my end, I think technology is at the center of everything we do today. It's the way our alumni engage typically with their institutions, with each other. We have to think about how best to use it. But I think one of the things we also have to think how best to do is not to duplicate the technologies that are already out there that people are already using. And so, for instance, LinkedIn is a great example of something that most people I know in my sector are using LinkedIn pretty aggressively to either communicate with each other, with the sector that they're in, to reinforce their brand, all of that. We actually moved away from setting up a separate kind of networking portal because we felt it was more important to go where they already were, as opposed to trying to create a whole another channel or avenue for them. But that said, I think there are some really great examples of tech out there that are doing some great work in leveraging AI, for instance, to be able to think about supporting the mentoring that might go on, to sort of matchmake and create connections with people. I think we've got to stay on top of technology. We have to really think about how close we are to it, and we have to use it as mindfully as we can. I wouldn't suggest that we should be building our own bespoke tech platforms that are unique to our institutions, because I think that is a recipe for disaster. We just run the risk of blowing up the minute the person who built it leaves, and we're in deep trouble. So I take I embrace technology. Data is at the core of every decision that we make here. We make decisions based on analysis of the data, but really think hard about how you can use technology in a way that gives you the best returns, that also doesn't require a huge amount of staff, because none of us have the staff to do all of this. So it's sort of disintermediated tech can be so helpful. So that's my 2 cents.
That comment on resourcing.
I agree with Christine also, because one thing which is so true, that no need to duplicate those efforts, because in my experience, what we basically did few years back, we created a platform, right? But the reason was because some of the employers was only specifically looking for the UK graduates to be hired, right? So we provided a login ID to the alumni and, to the employer also. But I think in a way, that's the duplication for LinkedIn also. So I think it also depends on what exactly you want to achieve. Developing a network, through different platforms, I think for alumni relations, yes, in terms of alumni engagement, you can actually introduce different sort of tools that can actually help alumni, but specifically or maybe just to manage that network, but to connect with them, I think we already have a lot of platforms. I think one good way is we're currently using an electronic platform to, we have more than 70 attendees who are basically listening about this conversation. And right now, what I see is basically simply I see the information on different WhatsApp groups, right? It's simple. And you actually get that information across, and then people can actually sign up for it and come. Because to be very honest, people now have a very short attention span, and too many applications and too much of that, I think may further, complicate things. That's my take on that.
And I was just going to add, definitely I agree, and it's all what resources you have in terms of a budget. What is the, how it's, some of these are very expensive, depending on your universities, your situation, your teams. But the staffing, that's so important to consider, because sure, you can go and purchase something, but then you need to be trained up. You need to have staffing that is dedicated to that usually. However, currently, like so in my space at ANU, we are looking for some support in the mentoring platform space to really scale up, because there are a lot of mentoring alumni programs happening on campus, but in very, very small pockets. And I'm sure there's more out there that we're not even aware of. And so kind of using a system to help bring that all into one and actually increase the scale and efficiencies around that is something which I think there's definitely value in. And I will, without naming other names, we've mentioned LinkedIn a few times, but obviously we are here hosted by Applied HE, and I know Applied HE has also got an alumni ready, I think it's relatively new, an alumni ready web application. So there is more information on that on the Applied HE website, so do go and take a look. Jenny, what would you like to, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, just to share with you on the technology part, recently we just had our AR career fair. So that's where our alumni actually engage with our current students as well as the potential employers. So all these are done virtually without the alumni, because some of our alumni are all over the world. So then our current students are able to interact with the alumni, and at the same time, we are gathering some of the potential employers in the virtual world. So it is kind of interesting, and the students actually love it. So this is one of the tech that we are currently doing at my, just to share.
No, that's fantastic. Thank you, Jenny. There's so much out there and so many, again, innovative ideas. It keeps it fresh and creative, which is great. We've actually got quite a few questions in the chat to go through, which is really good to see. But I might, before, I think those are the bulk of the questions, and our time is coming to a close soon. Before we do sort of close off on formal questions, I had one to end on a bit of a soft, fuzzy note, if possible. Let's see. This is all about people, relationships, the people we meet at home and abroad. And so maybe a quick, note from all of you around the room on if you can share any sort of briefly shared alumni story which has made a difference, or something that you remember fondly for whatever reason. Who wants to go first? I bet, Christine, you must have many.
Well, I think that's why I struggle. And honestly, you were so lovely, and you sent this briefing out a few days ago. So I've had days to think about this, but the problem is I go in about 19 different directions. I think the thing, and here's an example. So last night, in fact, I was having dinner with one of our very beloved volunteers. He's been an amazing source of support for us. He's run our alumni group in Cornwall, which is a fairly small population of alumni in Cornwall, but he has personally put so much of himself behind this role in raising money for scholarships and bursaries for students, for widening participation, for getting students to think about applying to the university that would never in a million years think to come to Oxford. And he's done this with dedication and service over, 35 years, I'd say. We finally got around to giving him something called the Distinguished Friend of Oxford Award, probably about 4 years ago. And here's a man who's had many accolades in his life. He's been involved in many organizations, but this one act of the Vice Chancellor giving him this award made such a difference to him. Honestly, it just, you could see him just blossoming in receiving this award. It was such a distinction for him. And I realized that's the perfect circle. He started as an undergraduate, coming from deepest, darkest Cornwall, didn't know where he was going in his life. He attained a great deal of success in his career and did amazing things, and then gave back to the university and his college and his department on so many different levels. But it was this recognition that he got that made all the difference to him as a sort of a career personal definition or defining moment. And for me, there's nothing better than seeing that volunteerism and that dedication being recognized by the institution, by the leaders of the institution. That's what it's all about. It's not how much money he gave. It's all about a cumulative sense of responsibility and dedication to the institution that means so much. So it was.
And we didn't even talk about recognition programs, so thank you for bringing that into the mix.
I know.
There's so much out there. Hamad.
Yeah, I think it's very important even to celebrate the success of your alumni as well, you know. So to do that, even British Council, we had an alumni award. So in Pakistan, I brought that, thing up, to start that, at least we can recognize the achievements of those UK graduates who are living in Pakistan, because for us, alumni relations was only for the British graduates, right? But obviously there were different groups, even for the Australian, I think you also organized a couple of events in Pakistan also. But it's very important that first you celebrate, because that gives them that motivational boost also, that that they can actually support and contribute to the society. So I think recently we had a very good success story where one of our alumni, she basically has developed an eco-friendly jet engine. So she's basically only lady who has registered a patent at this point in time, and in Pakistan, and then she's actually working to develop that, and she works very closely with her husband also, and then they're doing a lot of things in Pakistan. That's kind of, they're very inspiring stories for others also to come up and take these sort of fields where generally people only offer computer sciences, business, or doctor programs. But she has actually established the fact that yes, you can actually also work in the aviation sector, and being a woman also, you have those opportunities, right? So I think it also inspires others. It opened doors for many of the people. Then recently also we see a lot of finalists in the alumni awards who are doing brilliant work. Some people have actually started their own businesses on tourism, especially because in the context of Pakistan, we still think there's a lot needs to be done on the tourism sites, and there are a lot of sites that haven't worked on. So they're doing a lot of public and private sector partnerships. Now, if somebody sees them and then say, "Oh yes, this is a sector. There is a potential. I never thought of it, but she thought of it or he thought of it. Let's go into it." So that create multiple opportunities for everybody. So I think this is something unique that alumni relations can bring on table for everybody.
And that full circle that Christine mentioned, definitely. Before we go to questions, Dari or Jenny, any closing thoughts?
Just on that warm fuzzy thought, Zeba, that you've asked us to conjure up from our memory. One that really does spring to mind is, and I think speaks to the power of that connected alumni, is we both worked at the same institutions, Zeba, so you'd be familiar with this, where we had a lot of Colombo Plan scholars. So people who came to study in Australia in the 1950s, 60s, when the Australian government funded international students to come to Australia. And those experiences were so formative that we had alumni who had met their, partners, their life partner on campus. And then, they got married, and then 40 years later, they're still part of this connected alumni network. And actually what these two alumni in particular did was they helped set up our operation in Singapore, where they were very well known. They were very successful. They had very good connections into government. And they were so proud and connected to their institution because they had this life-changing experience of going overseas to study. That they really enabled a lot of that work that we did in Singapore about setting up an entity, having a presence in Singapore. So yeah, look, that's one that really comes to mind about the power of that connected alumni.
Definitely, that was really memorable, and it's been really interesting for me in Australia. You have that original Colombo Plan group who are in their 60s now and above, especially across Asia. And now you have a new Colombo Plan program with current students going out on visits to across Asia from Australia and vice versa. And it's just really interesting seeing those sort of two segments but come together under that, I guess that's prestigious scholarship. There's a lot we can do with that group as well. There's really, there's real scope in that actually. I know we're close to time. Jenny, would you like to add?
Yeah, just a quick one. So just to summarize, I saw some of the questions regarding the alumni in terms of how do you convince the alumni to come back instead of just in of donation and sponsoring and all this. So from where I came from, because my institution, we cater for low-income students from the poor family or challenged family. So what I always told my students or graduates or the alumni is that whatever we have to do it with passion. And we need to actually convince that this is not for money, but it is more than money we are talking about or sponsor or we are talking about. It is something that we can actually bring the value to our students, bring the value to the future generation, bring the next generation of students. So when we convey the same message, I'm sure the alumni, our sponsors, but make a better tomorrow and a better lead.
And you're really making me think about the thematics of our conversation today. It's about values, you know, the sort of the circle of giving, whether that's philanthropic, giving back, institutional connections, obviously volunteering, and partnerships and relationships. It's all about and how those networks come together. So Mandy, do we have time for Q&A? I know we're a little bit short.
It's okay if you overrun, if nobody minds.
Okay.
I don't mind.
And would anyone like to ask? I guess I would like to come on the chat and ask a live question, or should we go through what's on the chat quickly if we can? Some are comments, it's not all questions. Again, thank you to everyone. Let me see. There's a lot of them are comments actually. Let's see what else is there. Someone suggested, Sanchali Chakrabarti has said, kindly suggest a comprehensive online certification training for advancement, alumni relations and fundraising for people based in India. Christine, I thought that's probably a nice plug for something like CASE.
Oh, it's a brilliant plug for CASE. Yeah, absolutely. You know, sadly, I think actually in America, there's getting to be more and more graduate programs that are actually, you know, certificate-led or even degree-led programs around, certainly around philanthropy. I know there in terms of fundraising. I'd love to see there be something that is really a, you know, a tried and true program that that is affiliated with a university or something. But CASE is brilliant at bringing professionals together and bringing the best minds together to share best practice. And they do wonderful deep dives into alumni relations or deep dives into fundraising or into, you know, data gathering and data analysis. So definitely keep an eye out for, there's the Asia Pacific conference every year, isn't there?
Yes.
And there's one coming up just in a few weeks' time in Europe as well, but they are all over the world. So definitely check out CASE, Council for Advancement and Support of Education.
Thank you. I think I've just gone through everything else. It seems like there are more comments. So thanks everyone for your comments. If there's any final questions, Ghulam Jilani, you raised your hand. Hi, Ghulam.
Okay.
I have question which I have shared, you know, question and answers section, you know, and as per my question, you know, if alumni are given preference treatment in admissions or hiring or promotions, it can undermine the principle of meritocracy within the university. So this, don't you think this can harm the institution's reputation and the quality of its programs with reference to alumni relationship as such, you know?
Do you mind if I jump in on that one, Ziba? Because
Yeah, of
I literally just had a great conversation about this. So in America, Ghulam, the American institutions, many of them, the private institutions, do indeed look at legacy. They look at the children of their alumni, and they do give them when there's a, when it's tough to make a decision between two candidates. If your father went to Harvard, you might often get a leg up. I couldn't agree more with you. I think there is a huge issue right now at play with universities in the States having to explain this, and frankly having to somehow explain that their students that were legacy students are just as smart as the other students, whereas we at Oxford, where we don't take legacy into consideration, it's brilliant. It's all based on the academic performance of the student or the applicant, and there's no expectation that an alum who gives a lot of money or simply graduated, that their child is going to have an easier ride. It is all based on what you're capable of, and whether this is the right fit for you. That's the other thing too. So I'm in your camp. I think it's a terrible thing to see that sort of favoritism start to creep in and take over. I hope we all stay as strong about that as possible.
Thank you, Christine. Any other final questions? Just give it another couple of seconds. All right, well, I think that's a wrap then. Thank you. Thank you to the panel. Thank you so much, Hamad, Dari, Jenny, Christine. Thank you for all your insights. I hope you also found it enjoyable as being part of this conversation. Really great to get all your collective insights together. Thank you, Mandy, and the team at Applied HE for hosting this session. And please do keep checking their website, because there are so many more interesting fireside chats and opportunities to connect through Applied HE. And for everyone zooming in, this was great to see so much commentary and so many questions coming through. So I hope, and on behalf of the panel, we hope you've had an insightful session too, and thanks for joining us. I do offer, feel free to connect, find us on LinkedIn, connect there, and happy to keep this conversation going as well. And if you are coming to Canberra, do link up with me. Mandy, back to you.
Great, thank you. Can you see my screen here?
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to thank all the participants for joining us for this very interesting and relevant discussion. I hope you've all enjoyed it. Please allow me to also express my deep appreciation to our wonderful speakers, and to Ziba. You did a great job. Thank you so much, all of you, for your time and contributions. This is the second episode of the Fireside Chats for the year. So while I'm going through my closing presentation, my colleague Simon will be quietly upgrading all of you to panelists. So please allow him to do that. And so that at the end of this event, we can all meet and greet each other. This is our signature Applied HE webinar signed off. So please do not decline. So the next and last fireside chat for the year is on the 13th of December. That's on a Wednesday at 8 p.m. Singapore time. And the topic for the next fireside chat is, should universities be rated for its internationalization? If so, how best to do it? As it is still a while away, we will be sending emailers to remind you nearer the date. Alternating with the fireside chat is Squaring the Circle debate. This is the last one for season 4, and it's scheduled on the 25th of October, also on a Wednesday, and also at 8 p.m. Singapore time. The topic is, students are not the customers of a university. Again, we'll be sending reminder emailers, so do check your emails or spam boxes nearer the date. In another few months, we will be the new rankers in town. On the 1st of December 2023, we are launching the Applied HE Private and Public University Rankings for the ASEAN region in Cebu, the Philippines. All of you are most welcome to join us in person. It is held jointly with the Annual General Assembly of the Philippines Association of Colleges and Universities Commission on Accreditation, or PACACOA as they're generally known. So what this means is you will be able to meet all the universities in the Philippines, all under one roof. And I'm sure they're all looking forward to meet you too. So I hope to see all of you in beautiful Cebu in December. And we will be sending you more information and registration emailers by next week. So do look out for it. Meanwhile, if your institution is located within the ASEAN region, and if you haven't submitted data to us yet, please do so ASAP. The submission deadline is by the 30th of October, 2023. Next, meet our family of apps. They are excellent tools for developing your branding strategies. We have Future. This is the first of its kind, an online networking platform created specially for the higher education sector. And to serve your ever-growing alumni family, we have the Alumni Ready app. This is not just a CRM, but also an app that enables you to efficiently track, manage, and keep your alumni engaged, as well as to retain them. Now, the whole night I've been hearing talks on how to keep track, engage, manage them, but no one actually mentioned how do you retain them, bearing in mind your alumni keep growing every day. From the graduates, 20-something, they grow to 30s, from 30s to 40s to 50s, and even at 70 or 80, they're still your alumni. How do you cater to this ever-growing group? How do you retain them and keep them coming back for more? So that's food for thought there. Next, we have the Talent Ready. This is still in development stage. Talent Ready is an app created specifically for graduates to connect to the industry and vice versa. Basically, it will match the right graduating student to the right employer. Another app also in development is Collab Ready. This is the this is the ultimate platform for all kinds of collaborations in the higher education industry, whether it's MOUs, research, exchanges, mobility, etc. And all these innovative apps will definitely help the various departments of your university and will give you that edge over your competition. Our online news site, Extra Extra, has been around for a while. This web app can help you to disseminate your university's news and information to your global peers and stakeholders, hence building your brand globally. This is phase 1. And coming soon, phase 2, we are building a platform to help researchers to promote their research papers to generate more citations and awareness. These two platforms are complementary, so please do use them. Under our Future Ready suite of micro-credentials, we have the Critical Thinking Assessment Test, created specially for your graduating students. This innovative strategy will put your university's name into the hands of your employers, hence building your employer's reputation. Now, I don't have time to go into all the details, but if you would like to learn more about how this strategy can become a great branding and marketing tool that will not only enhance your students' resumes, but also increase your visibility with your employers at a low cost or no cost, please contact us to learn more. This win-win strategy benefits the 3 groups: your school, your students, and their employers. So we have 3 rating systems. They're also great marketing tools as well to meet your benchmarking and global branding needs. We have the all-round job ready rating to evaluate the quality of teaching and learning and employability of your graduates. We also have an English ready rating to evaluate the quality of English language instruction in non-English speaking countries. This is a great marketing tool for the recruitment of international students. And the online ready rating, which helps your institution to benchmark and promote your online programs and courses. These tools can easily translate into affordable strategies for global branding and marketing of your institution. And once rated, you will receive a verified badge to strengthen all your marketing materials. And last but not least, we want to acknowledge our sponsors. We're very grateful for all the support. Universitas Hasanuddin of Makassar in Indonesia and Education Insight from the UK. A very big thank you for all your valuable support. So we've come to the end of the second fireside chat. Thank you very much, everyone, but please do not leave the room yet. We always must have the Applied HE signature sign-off after our webinars. So please stick around. We're going to open the room now for a few minutes so you can all see each other, say hello, introduce yourself, have a chat. And this is as much as we can do online in the name of networking. So please turn on your cameras. Simon will be upgrading you to panelists. But before I hand you over to Simon, I'd like to make a quick announcement. If any of you would like to speak at our webinars, please reach out to us. Just drop me a line via WhatsApp or email, whichever is more convenient. Okay, Over to you now, Simon, to get our online social event started. Thank you very much, everyone. Great. Is everyone so shy? No one's turning on the cameras? This would be a great chance for you to ask questions if you couldn't just now, because all the speakers are still here to reply you.
Hello, everyone.
Christine, thank you very much. You have rightly responded to my question about the meritocracy. But generally, we are human beings, and biasness is there. So, I mean, you have rightly also said, that I support your question as well, that we got to practice the meritocracy in the university. Thank you very much. And it was nice interacting with Zeba Salman also. Very well, managed the panel discussion, taking into consideration every speaker, especially Jenny and Derry and Sheikh Ahmad. Wonderful it was, It was nice interacting. I'm a vice president, Pakistan Policy Institute, USA, and at the moment I'm in Pakistan. I'm a practitioner also and a consultant and trainer to the National Business Development Program for SME Government of Pakistan. I'm a certified trainer from the United Nations International Trade Center for SMEs and international trade. So thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to interact with everyone. Thank you. Thank you again.
Thank you, Ghulam. I think there's a good connection there with Hamad to take from this. Thank you
Yes,
for the
definitely.
feedback, Ghulam.
Okay, has anybody anything else to say? No? Right, so we'll see you the next time then. Thank you very, very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Meet you all.
Bye,
Bye-bye.
Mandy. Bye,
Thank you
everyone.
very
Bye,
much.
everyone. Thank you so
Bye.
much. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thanks.
Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.